My fiancé, after an accident, fell in love with the girl who saved him. Thinking of him, I offered a few words of advice, which led to the girl silently vanishing without a trace, eventually dying in a dismal rented room. 5 years later, my family went bankrupt, my father fell ill and passed away, and I plummeted into the water due to brake failure. My fiancé, he stood by and watched me struggle in despair. When he saw I had no strength left, he let out a relieved sigh, took out a photo, and said coldly, "You deserve this. This is what you owe her." Reborn, my future fiancé's father, comforted me. "Don't worry. Even if my son wants to marry her, I won't agree." But I shook my head. "No, uncle. Please give them your blessing. I have someone else in my heart. I've come here on behalf of my family to break off the engagement. I died exactly on my birthday. It should have been the start of my life, but Nolan Jasper made it the end point." The water slowly filled the car. The suffocating feeling overwhelmed me. The car door was stuck. I looked at him smiling on the surface with absolutely no intention of saving me. Only then did I understand why the brakes had failed. But why? I still couldn't understand why he could be so cruel. I had loved Nolan Jasper for 8 full years, treating him with all sincerity, never doing anything wrong. His family ran a premium wine business, and my family owned the largest winery in the region. Thus, both sides cooperated smoothly, and their business prospered. Since we met, I had brought them many clients and benefits, yet just a few days after inheriting the business, he wanted me dead. I looked at him desperately, letting the water slowly swallow me. Then, Nolan Jasper pulled a woman's photograph from his pocket. When he turned it over, the face looked vaguely familiar. His face suddenly turned cold and merciless. "You deserve this. This is for causing Daria's death." Honestly, I had even forgotten who that person was. It wasn't until he mentioned it that I suddenly remembered. I couldn't believe that 5 years had passed, and he hadn't forgotten. Still blaming her death on me. I wanted to curse him as a bastard, but my chest was choked with rage. I couldn't utter a single word. My consciousness faded. The last scene of my life was his back turning away, leaving me to die. The sensation of suffocating still lingered, but I suddenly realized I wasn't bound by a seatbelt anymore, nor was the surrounding area filled with foul sludge. Foggily, I woke up sitting in front of a computer desk, the gentle sunlight spreading across the room and soft piano music playing. My best friend, scrolling through her phone beside me, suddenly frowned and lamented, "Oh, my poor Appa fell. I hope he's not seriously hurt." Hearing this, I immediately recognized the date. Today was the day her idol was injured, and also the day Nolan Jasper was discharged from the hospital. So, I wasn't dead. I had been reborn, back to the time before our wedding. Before I could think, the hospital called to inform me that Nolan Jasper was preparing for discharge. As the fiancé of the Jasper Group heir, if I didn't show up, the media would surely cause a fuss. So, I quickly took my best friend to the hospital. I knew he had been in an accident a few days earlier and was rescued by a girl with whom he had stayed in contact. In the last life, he not only claimed her as his sister but often brought her along when we went out to eat. Nolan Jasper wore a patient gown. His complexion was still pale, but his handsome appearance remained evident. We had been together for 10 years. Everyone said we were a perfect match. In high school, when dating was banned, he quietly protected me. If any male students so much as approached me or was nice to me, he would immediately become intensely jealous. Back then, we often secretly wore matching colored t-shirts and walked home together after school. The whole school knew Nolan Jasper was madly in love with me. Even my college roommate once said, "Vera, I bet you'll marry him right after graduation." I only smiled and didn't answer then, because I was also looking forward to the day he would kneel and propose to me amidst countless admiring glances. However, no one expected that just a few days earlier, he had gotten into a car accident. After his recovery, a girl appeared by his side. It was the girl who was with him now, helping him pack. Her name was Daria. She was thin, fair-skinned, and her eyes, though not large, were very bright. When she looked at Nolan Jasper, her eyes were filled with soft infatuation. But when she saw me walk in, her expression suddenly became strange, as if I were the intrusive third party. My presence made her feel uncomfortable and redundant. After all, they were talking happily when I stood at the door, and I felt like an outsider. Very awkward. In the past life, I felt the same way, not because of insecurity but because, that day, I truly saw the internal conflict in Nolan Jasper's eyes. My woman's intuition told me that all those years we spent together had been nothing but my own self-deception. Although my heart ached then, I considered that aside from the promise between our parents, we had no real binding ties, so I was ready to let go. But since he had treated me well for so many years, and to ensure his smooth inheritance of the family business, I suppressed my emotions and gently advised him, "Nolan, do your dad and mom know about you two? I think it's better if you don't tell them now. It's not good for the girl either. The media isn't trustworthy. Wait until you've taken over the company before going public." Nolan Jasper didn't say anything, but I never expected those few words would be the root cause of his hatred for me. Daria saw me enter and acted friendly, extending her hand and calling me sister-in-law. In the past life, I was slightly flustered and politely shook her hand. But now, I didn't bother to move. She saw I wasn't reaching out, and her arm hanging in the air became awkward. My best friend was also surprised, not understanding why I wasn't being as cordial as usual since I was normally polite to everyone. Not just her, even the patients and family members in the room were watching us, like it was a show. Nolan Jasper couldn't stand the public attention, and quietly reminded me, "Vera, Daria is greeting you." Although his voice was gentle, I knew him too well. Whenever he bit his lip while speaking, he was losing his patience. I pretended not to hear, merely glancing at the fruit basket by the bed. Seeing my disregard, Daria felt a bit wronged. She withdrew her hand and awkwardly picked an apple from the basket, offering it to me. "Sister-in-law, have an apple. This one is very sweet." I just lifted my eyelids, not taking it. I turned and sat down on the edge of the bed, picking another apple and slowly peeling it myself. She turned to look at Nolan Jasper. Her eyes were slightly red. I clearly saw the wounded look in her eyes. Wounded? I just want to see how far she can take this performance. Yes, she was acting. Now she acted pitiful. Later, she would act as if she had vanished after achieving her goal. Back then, I even surfed the web and saw the Prince and Cinderella story, about them being heavily praised, and I was even a little jealous. But later, I coincidentally read a comment saying this girl wasn't simple. Though I didn't entirely believe it, worried for Nolan Jasper, I hired someone to investigate Daria. At the time, my best friend scolded me for meddling, but I was persistent, because I thought anything was worth doing for Nolan Jasper. The person I hired was quite capable. He discovered Daria frequently called someone overseas, and even managed to get a recording of a conversation between her and that man. Hearing the recording sent a chill down my spine. She called the other party godfather and, in a sickeningly sweet voice, said, "If I just appeared out of nowhere, how could Nolan Jasper believe me? Help me book a ticket. I want to hide out at your place for a few days. He's a rich young master. I only need to be his mistress. I'll eat well and dress well for life. Plus, he's the type who falls blindly in love. I saved his life, and now I'll use the tactic of retreating to advance. He'll definitely cling to me. Don't worry, once I disappear, he'll be desperate to find me." Her retreating to advance tactic truly fooled everyone. Nolan Jasper, me, the entire Jasper family, and the media. I once asked Nolan Jasper what he liked about her, and he coldly replied, "Since childhood, didn't everyone only try to please me because I'm Galvin Jasper's son? I'm his favorite son. If not for the status match between our two families, would you marry me? But she's different. Even without knowing who I was, she risked her life to save me." I was stunned. It was true. If not for the relationship between our parents, how would he and I have ever known each other, let alone spoken of love or marriage? That day, when I had the accident, I was so severely injured. I couldn't recognize faces. Daria risked her life to pull me out of the car. In that moment, I saw a light surrounding her. She's not like others. She has no ulterior motives. She wholeheartedly took care of me. She's so good. So why can't I marry her? Hearing that, I felt he wasn't wrong. At the time, I thought if it were me, I would have chosen to call the police rather than rush in myself. Since childhood, I was a cautious girl, thinking 3 times before acting. His story made me start doubting myself. But now, thinking calmly, even though Nolan Jasper was seriously injured, the car he drove was a Lamborghini. How could Daria not know he was a rich young master? So, I was sure she knew Nolan Jasper's identity from the start and deliberately approached him. Nolan Jasper, seeing my silence and complete lack of reaction to their presence, finally couldn't hold back and snapped, "What are you trying to do?" Seeing his voice growing tense, Daria gently intervened. "You two haven't eaten, have you? Let me go buy something. Nolan, you still like hamburgers, right?" Then she turned to me, her voice soft. "Sister-in-law, what would you like to eat?" I knew perfectly well she understood the relationship between Nolan Jasper and me. That deferential, understanding demeanor was just a pretense of weakness to win Nolan Jasper's affection. I took a bite of my apple, decisively refusing. Takeout food isn't safe. No need. My coldness finally infuriated Nolan Jasper. He waved his hand, knocking the apple out of my grasp, and angrily roared, "Vera Smith, haven't you done enough?" My best friend was startled, and even the nurse who just came in to complete the discharge paperwork jumped. Nolan Jasper's voice turned cold. "Is that how your family raised you?" Then, turning to Daria, his expression immediately softened as he comforted her. "Don't mind her." I just wanted to laugh. In the past life, after I discovered the truth about Daria and told Nolan Jasper, warning him not to trust her too much, just a few days Later, the media reported that Daria, unable to enter a wealthy family, had committed suicide by charcoal burning in her rented room. At the time, Nolan Jasper texted me, "I can't believe it. Women's hearts truly are unpredictable." I thought he was talking about Daria, not thinking much of it, but it wasn't until the moment I drowned in the cold water that I realized the person he meant was me. Seeing me still sitting silently, Nolan Jasper yelled, "Didn't you hear me? She politely greeted you, offered you an apple, and asked what you wanted to eat. What is this attitude? I'm telling you, Vera Smith, even without Daria, I wouldn't want to marry you. After all these years, I never expected you to be so rude and uncultured. Hurry up and apologize to her." Looking at him roaring like a mad beast, I realized I must have been crazy in my past life to like someone like this. I shrugged, turned, and walked out to the car. My best friend thought I was trying to act tough, expecting me to sob hysterically when we got into the car. But I just leisurely chewed my gum and snapped my fingers. "All right, let's go eat a feast, and then we're going to the Jasper family house." She was stunned. What? I cheerfully repeated myself. This time, she panicked. "Why are you going to the Jasper house? Are you going to tell the parents?" I glared at her. "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old? She still didn't understand. I just smiled faintly, speaking mysteriously. "You'll see in a moment." After eating our fill, it was time for the main event. When we arrived at the Jasper family villa, Nolan Jasper and Daria had just returned from the hospital. He saw me following and looked impatient. "Why are you at my house?" I ignored him, walking past him as if he were air, and asked the housekeeper directly, "Is Uncle Galvin home?" Uncle Galvin was my father's close friend, and our two families had always been close. I was sure that during Nolan Jasper's hospital stay, he had discussed breaking the engagement with his father. Uncle Galvin must be in a difficult position. Hearing me ask for his father, Nolan Jasper pulled Daria in front of me. His eyes were full of arrogance. "Don't think just because my father has been fond of you since childhood, he'll listen to everything you say. I'm his biological son. I've told Dad. I will only marry Daria in this life. If you plan to pull any crying, causing a scene, or threatening suicide stunts, don't blame me for making you regret it." I stared at his face, not because he looked unfamiliar, but because I suddenly realized he had always been like this. Since childhood, he demanded what he wanted and cast aside what he didn't, regardless of other people's feelings, including mine, his fiancé whose wedding date was set. He was spoiled since birth, never knowing that the stable life he enjoyed was due to his parents shouldering responsibilities behind the scenes. Thinking this, I burst out laughing, looking at him contemptuously. Have you ever heard the saying, "A wise dog doesn't block the path"? Perhaps no one had ever said such harsh words to him since he was a child. Nor had he ever seen me so cold. He was speechless for a moment, then reluctantly stepped back to let me pass. When I entered the house, Uncle Galvin was hosting a group of media reporters, conducting an interview about the growing success of their winery. Seeing Nolan Jasper and Daria enter together, he immediately understood something. His face darkened, and he quickly pulled me aside. "Vera, don't worry. I won't agree to their marriage, nor will I let you suffer any loss." He was afraid I would make a scene and embarrass everyone. But an opportunity like this doesn't come easily. This time, I couldn't continue to yield for others. I poured Uncle Galvin a cup of tea, and in front of the major reporters, I smiled and said, "Uncle, those two genuinely love each other. I feel I can't compare to her. I hope you'll grant them your blessing. Moreover, I already have someone else in my heart. I've come here on behalf of my family to break off the engagement." The moment my words fell, the entire room went silent. The reporters, sensing a hot scoop, quickly started writing. The next day, articles began to appear. Marriage alliance between two tycoons is on the brink of collapse. The young master of the Jasper family falls in love with his savior. The two openly appear together. The previous rumors were vague and baseless, but now, I, the person involved, had directly confirmed it in front of major newspapers, completely sealing their relationship. I heard that after I left, Uncle Galvin was so furious that he slapped Nolan Jasper across the face right in front of the reporters. Of course, I didn't escape a fierce scolding from my father when I returned home. He was almost insane with anger. "You didn't discuss it with the family, arbitrarily, broke off the engagement, and even caused a scene in front of the media. Did you drink fake wine?" I sat huddled in my chair, looking like a frightened bird, but feeling immense satisfaction inside. My father smoked, pacing the room, finally coming up with a salvage plan, immediately. "Take the limited edition red wine we just imported and go apologize. Try to defuse the situation with the Jasper family. Say you spoke rashly out of anger. Go quickly." My voice was quiet, but my attitude was firm. "I'm not going." "What?" "I'm not going. I won't marry him. If you want to marry him, you go marry him." You want to kill me with anger?" His mustache trembled with rage. He immediately stepped forward and touched my forehead. "No fever." "Is this really my daughter? The real Vera Smith?" I was still Vera Smith, but no longer the Vera Smith of the past life. Without going through the heartbreak of the last life, how could I be this resolute now? I used to be an obedient, gentle, and sensible girl. I was always respectful and thoughtful in front of elders, always putting others first. If it were the past life, I would rather die than calmly announce a broken engagement in front of reporters and elders. But it was because I was influenced by my father's gentle, non-confrontational nature since childhood that my family met such a tragic end. In the previous life, my father, out of loyalty to Uncle Galvin, agreed to merge the company with Nolan Jasper, lowering his guard entirely. Unexpectedly, Nolan Jasper pulled tricks in the equity contract, eventually kicking my father out of the board of directors. All his life's efforts were erased in the blink of an eye. He died of grief soon after, and my mother, also heartbroken, fell ill and passed away not long after him. The truth proved that living without competition, without vigilance, blindly trusting people, and being overly sentimental did not always lead to a good outcome. That day, I took out all the love letters I had written to Nolan Jasper and burned them all. My best friend, Lisa, called. "Vera, you sent a message to Peter Jasper. Are you trying to approach him? I think you should apologize to Nolan Jasper. Maybe he's just playing around with that girl." I cut her off. He's not worth it. Someone like him doesn't deserve my apology. And sending a friend request to Peter Jasper is just to be friends. After talking to Lisa, I opened my phone and clicked on the profile picture of Peter Jasper. The man had a handsome, scholarly face. Peter Jasper was Nolan Jasper's half-brother. His mother passed away early, and then Uncle Galvin remarried and had Nolan Jasper. His stepmother, Nolan Jasper's biological mother, was sharp-tongued. With just a few soft words, she convinced Uncle Galvin to kick Peter out of the house. Despite this, Uncle Galvin maintained some affection, secretly funding Peter to open a small company. Unexpectedly, Peter inherited his father's business acumen and gradually developed the company into a strong venture. However, after Uncle Galvin passed away, Nolan Jasper and his mother used the deceased's name to acquire Peter's main suppliers one by one, destabilizing his company's supply chain and ultimately destroying it. Finally, he had no choice but to go abroad to start anew, only to contract a deadly disease and die alone in a foreign land. All these details only returned to me after my rebirth. If Peter Jasper had had solid backing then, perhaps the Jasper family wouldn't have fallen into Nolan Jasper's hands. But in this life, I, the heiress of the largest winery, and he, the first son of the Jasper family's main wife, would certainly benefit from cooperation. The commotion between the two families made headlines for a few days, then slowly subsided. Under the spotlight, everything eventually gets dug up. When there were no new leads, people started saying that it was common for rich kids to fool around. The Jasper family would surely turn a blind eye and would never allow a common girl to step through their luxurious doors. How could a century-old business let a 20-something son ruin it? But Nolan Jasper ignored everything. He lived a comfortable, carefree life every day. He had several wine distribution companies under his control. My father had been supplying the Jasper family at a low price for years, bringing them countless business connections. He had more money than he could spend. Every day, he was either taking Daria to luxury venues or traveling around, enjoying life. So he didn't even notice when the number of dealers dropped and replacements were made. Witnessing Nolan Jasper's indifference to everything, Peter Jasper once told me, "This is just an appetizer before the meal." I applauded him upon hearing that. Sure enough, a few days later, major newspapers simultaneously published sensational news. Young Master Nolan Jasper to marry Cinderella who saved his life. What is the charm that subdued young Master Nolan? Is Nolan Jasper genuinely in love or just infatuated? Will Galvin Jasper allow a girl without a family background to enter the Jasper home? The father just lost his wife and married a beauty. Is the son following in his father's footsteps? Thus, the name Galvin Jasper was dragged back into the conversation. But at this point, Uncle Galvin knew that whether he stopped them or supported them, it would be difficult either way. Whichever choice he made, my family, who had brought them countless clients, would surely turn their backs, leading to a large number of partners following suit. Uncle Galvin thought it was all just fate, completely unaware that behind the chaotic facade, the true mastermind was his eldest son, Peter Jasper, whom he had always overlooked. The media was indeed a sharp weapon. Peter Jasper continued his strategy, typing on his keyboard, and said with a smile, "I didn't expect you to be so decisive." I smiled back. If I hesitated, I would be disgracing the Smith family name. My best friend, Lisa, was furious when she heard Nolan Jasper was determined to marry Daria, yelling, "That brainless, girl-crazy idiot. He has a beautiful, rich, and capable woman like you, and he's going to marry that kind of person." I just smiled faintly. Relationships that are easily lost were never the best relationships to begin with. She was surprised, not understanding how I had suddenly gained such clarity. I only smiled silently. To understand all this, I had to trade my own death. After the family's turmoil subsided, my father, seeing the situation was beyond salvage, sighed and let go. My daughter has been spoiled since childhood. She can't endure this kind of humiliation. If Nolan likes someone else, then so be it. Don't force her anymore. People in our circle saw my father's attitude and chimed in, expressing sympathy. Only Uncle Galvin remained silent, frowning deeply in thought. Not long after, the media shifted focus, making me the new center of attention. Heiress whose engagement was broken. Are the rumors of infertility true? Abandoned. Where will the rich young lady go now? All her youth dedicated to the young master, only to receive a breakup. Vera Smith, what will her life be like now? I was fine, but Uncle Galvin was deeply troubled, and my father worried himself sick. The really interesting part was just beginning. Less than 2 days later, a new sensational piece of news hit the front page. Of course, this was something Peter Jasper and I had planned long ago. The latest headlines reported, various handsome and dashing men appear by the side of heiress Vera Smith, speculation that young Master Nolan Jasper left her for a third party, or has she already found new love? Miss Vera Smith's new love, a face exactly like Galvin Jasper's. Their affection is deep. Miss Vera and Nolan Jasper's half-brother go public with their relationship. The fire had been fanned. When Peter Jasper took my hand and stood before Uncle Galvin, everyone was stunned. Dad, Vera and I have feelings for each other. I want to marry her. I also smiled, pouring Uncle Galvin a cup of tea. Uncle, the person I once said was in my heart is him. Uncle Galvin froze for a few seconds, then seemed to realize something. His eyes softened as he looked at Peter. Only now did he realize that when his youngest son plunged him into crisis, his long-forgotten eldest son was the one who came to his rescue. After an intimate dinner, Uncle Galvin happily announced that he would host the wedding for Peter Jasper and me. Nolan Jasper sat nearby, drinking glass after glass, his face alternating between green and white, making him difficult to read. It wasn't because he was reluctant to let go, but because he was always certain I would love him forever. Witnessing me side by side with another man must have wounded his ego. Afterward, Uncle Galvin didn't make things difficult for him and Daria, only postponing their wedding by a month. That evening, I returned home and received a call from Nolan Jasper. His voice was furious. Vera Smith, how long have you two been seeing each other? Are you intentionally trying to provoke me? You're not a child like that. I'm warning you, you'll regret marrying him. I sneered, replying without reservation, whether I regret it or not is none of your business. Worry about yourself. I suddenly recalled that in the past life, right before I died, Nolan Jasper himself said. If you hadn't said those things, Daria and I would have been happy together long ago. So, in this life, I had engraved that painful lesson in my bones. I would no longer interfere with their karma out of consideration for others. Now, I just needed to live my life and see how happy they could truly be. It was dark. The cold wind made me shiver slightly. Peter Jasper placed a thin blanket over my shoulders. What are you thinking about? Seeing him smile gently, I felt a pang of sadness, thinking of his end in the past life. My heart ached. We had been getting along so well. He was polite, gentle, and considerate to me. Sometimes I wondered if truly getting to live out my life with him wouldn't be a beautiful thing after all. I had been sitting for too long, and my legs were a bit numb. When I stood up, I lost my balance and fell into his arms. He gently stroked my head. His eyes were as warm as a stream. My future wife. Do you prefer a son or a daughter? My face instantly flushed, unbearably embarrassed. What are you talking about? He kept smiling, gently stroking my hair, holding me tightly. I reached for the teacup in his hand and whispered, What about you? He softly whispered back, As long as it's our child, I'll love them all. These past few days, my best friend Lisa accidentally came across Daria's social media account. It was filled with pictures showing off luxury cars and designer bags, living lavishly like a queen. Lisa muttered, She's brazenly clinging to a rich man. I heard her and didn't disagree. After all, everything I investigated was crystal clear. Her real name was Doris. She had been arrested several times for prostitution, then suddenly vanished from the scene. The rumor was that she had found a wealthy patron, decided to turn her life around, got plastic surgery, and transformed into the gentle, sweet Daria of today. The phone call she made overseas in the previous life was to her godfather, that wealthy patron who has since gone bankrupt. The most bitter irony was that Nolan Jasper's car accident was also intentionally staged by the two of them. I had originally intended to keep this evidence until the Jasper family's asset division, but Daria exposed her own deception earlier than expected. I heard she was seen leaving a hotel with her godfather by a sharp-eyed reporter. The reporter, unafraid of stirring up trouble, brought up her old scandals. That was when Nolan Jasper learned about Daria's past. During that time, I heard he went to the hospital for frequent checkups, afraid of contracting any diseases. The Jasper family housekeeper said that Uncle Galvin had never liked Daria. Since the two of them started dating, their daily spending was equivalent to a month's budget for a typical family. When Uncle Galvin heard about the promiscuous past, his blood pressure spiked from anger. And Nolan Jasper, acting as if he had no discerning eye, told his father that he no longer wanted to marry Daria and wanted to break off the engagement, even brazenly declaring, "If my brother hadn't stolen my true love, Vera Smith would be my wife right now." Uncle Galvin nearly threw a hot teapot at his face upon hearing that. The housekeeper, recounting the story, sighed, "I've been with the family for over 10 years, and I've never seen the master so angry." But I wasn't surprised. Nolan Jasper had always been self-serving, doing whatever he pleased. I remembered back in school he constantly flirted with various girls. I foolishly thought he was trying to make me jealous. Now, I realized that was just his true nature. The Jasper family had a good reputation. Nolan Jasper's fluctuating engagement status was making the family a laughingstock, which was certainly not good for business. But eventually Uncle Galvin just said, "Fine, don't marry her, just cut off contact." But Nolan Jasper's mother really knew how to provoke. In front of Uncle Galvin, she took a belt and gave Nolan Jasper a sound beating, finally weeping, "It's my fault for not raising him strictly. You should beat me instead. Beat him to death if you want." Uncle Galvin was too exhausted to argue further. He was shaking with rage and told Nolan Jasper to take a taxi and get out of his sight. That night, he came to my door completely drunk. But it was right after Peter Jasper and I had been intimate, and we were discussing how to decorate the room if we had a son and a daughter. He stood outside the door, seeing Peter Jasper and me both coming out in pajamas, our hair messy. His face turned extremely ugly. Peter Jasper, seeing Nolan Jasper, possessively pulled me into his arms, even intimately tracing his finger over the hickey on my neck. Nolan Jasper, reeking of alcohol, probably didn't know what he was doing. He roared, "Vera Smith, you dated me for so many years and never let me touch you. You've only been married this long and you're already like this?" I wanted to slap him, but before I could open my mouth, Peter Jasper laughed. "Little brother, you're meddling too much. You and Daria aren't married yet, but I'm sure you've done everything that needs to be done. Vera and I are legally married. Is there anything we do that's inappropriate?" With that, he lifted my chin and kissed me loudly. Nolan Jasper's face turned white with fury. He stammered, "She and I were just playing around." "Vera Smith, are you sacrificing your entire life just to provoke me? Is it worth it?" Hearing this, I smiled radiantly at him. "Yes, it is more than worth it. If I had met your brother sooner, it would be even more worthwhile." I leaned into Peter Jasper's embrace, leaving Nolan Jasper speechless with rage. Peter Jasper also spoke up, his voice full of sarcasm. "Then, little brother, you continue to play around. Don't delay the important matters between me and your sister-in-law." He then tried to close the door, but Nolan Jasper blocked it with his shoulder, urgently saying, "Vera, you're angry with me, aren't you? I know you're angry. It's all because that scheming woman Daria was too much. You should be marrying me, Vera." Peter Jasper immediately grabbed his arm, his expression darkening. "She's your sister-in-law, my wife. I advise you to have some shame." But Nolan Jasper was truly shameless. He tried to force his way into the house. I pretended to call Uncle Galvin. "Uncle Galvin, please handle this for me." As soon as he heard me call Uncle Galvin, Nolan Jasper immediately let go. I glared at him, then securely locked the anti-theft door. Fearing that Uncle Galvin would cut off his funding, he remained quiet for a few days. But just as Nolan Jasper stopped being a nuisance, Daria appeared at my door a few days later. She held my hands tightly, refusing to let go, saying, "Sister Vera, Nolan wants to break off the engagement. He even called me a slut. He must despise me because of my past, but all that is in the past. I truly love him now. Can you talk to him for me? I know I've done wrong things, but I truly love him now. But lately, he's been acting like a different person. He even curses at me terribly, saying strange, incomprehensible things like, 'If it weren't for you, Vera wouldn't have died.' That's ridiculous. Do you think he has a mental problem? He says he doesn't want to see anyone but you. I'm begging you, please go see him and talk to him for me." Hearing her, I vaguely felt something was wrong. His words when he came to see me were already strange, and now he was saying, "If it weren't for Daria, you wouldn't have died." Could he have been reborn too? If that was true, would my plans be completely disrupted? My mind was somewhat jumbled. According to the progression of the previous life, a week later, in the evening, Uncle Galvin would suddenly suffer a cerebral hemorrhage. In the past life, after Uncle Galvin passed away, Nolan Jasper naturally took over the company. But now, Peter Jasper's presence prevented him from getting his way. In this life, after marrying me, Peter Jasper was entrusted with the winery by Uncle Galvin. Under his management, the business strategy and product quality reached new heights. I was planning to help Peter Jasper solidify his control over the Jasper group, so I couldn't allow any mishaps now. Finally, a week later, on the most crucial day, after much thought, I messaged Nolan Jasper. Meet me at our old high school. Nolan Jasper and I were childhood sweethearts. After school, he always waited for me by the gate on his motorcycle and drove me home. He often boasted to his friends, "Vera Smith will definitely be my wife someday." Looking at the familiar school gate now, it felt like just yesterday. I saw Nolan Jasper, who had somehow gotten hold of his old motorcycle, waiting there. I refused the helmet he offered. He sighed. "Vera, this place holds all our memories." I looked at the faded high school sign and remained silent for a long time. This was the happiest time of my youth. "Vera, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I listened to you and kept my distance, restraining myself from her. Then she disappeared. I believed you and thought she had deceived me, but then she died in that rented room, pregnant. I felt immense guilt then, which turned into resentment towards you. But it wasn't until after you died that I found out. She wasn't the innocent person she pretended to be. That child wasn't mine. I truly regret it." Hearing his confession, my expression was blank. I said coldly, "So, you bought my family's winery, pulled tricks in the stock, transfer contract, caused my father to die of grief, and then tampered with my car's brakes, creating a scene where I supposedly drowned due to brake failure. You meticulously planned every step just to avenge the person you loved?" I stared into his eyes, continuing to question. "Nolan Jasper, tell me, are you still human?" My voice was icy, causing him to panic. Finally, he pulled out a video Daria had sent him. In the video, Daria held a bottle of pesticide, her eyes red, trembling as she said, "Nolan, are you really not coming to find me? Then I'll die for you to see." Nolan Jasper's voice in the video was impatient. "I hate being threatened. Drink it. I might even come clean up the mess after you die." After watching, I asked him, "Weren't you afraid Daria would actually drink it?" He merely shrugged, his face indifferent. "Afraid of what? If it weren't for her, you wouldn't have died, and you wouldn't have become Peter Jasper's wife. Besides, the car accident was also caused by her. She only wanted to marry me because of my wealth. She threatened to kill herself every few days. If she hadn't died, I would have been annoyed to death." Now, I felt he was truly terrifying, incomprehensible. I couldn't take it anymore and immediately turned to leave. Unexpectedly, he angrily grabbed me. "Vera, the old man is about to breathe his last today. Do you think my brother can take everything after the assets are divided? Don't be naive. I'm telling you, he won't get a single penny. My mother made my father write a will long ago. The Jasper group will belong to me, Nolan Jasper. If you regret it now, it's not too late." He paused and looked down at his watch. "It's time now. Divorce Peter Jasper. Don't worry, I won't mind that you're used goods." Hearing this, I truly couldn't help but burst out laughing until tears streamed down my face. My laughter gave him goosebumps. What are you laughing at?" I sighed, pulled the phone from my pocket, and handed it to him. He looked at the caller ID and froze, but still answered. Uncle Galvin's voice rang out on the other side. "Are you wishing for my early death?" Uncle Galvin was actually a decent person. Although he loved money, he was loyal. Otherwise, my father wouldn't have been so close to him. Knowing he was about to suffer a disaster, I had prepared a precaution. Uncle Galvin was rushed to the hospital for surgery early, and ultimately survived the ordeal unharmed. However, Daria became a vegetable. That day, she was desperate and actually drank the poison, even recording the process and sending the video to Nolan Jasper. Unfortunately, Nolan Jasper was afraid of her bothering him and turned off his phone after showing me the video. That day, when I left the school, I thought that even though Daria deceived Nolan Jasper, my death couldn't be entirely blamed on her. So, I still made a call to her. But after a while with no answer, I decisively called emergency services. Regrettably, it was still too late. When Nolan Jasper walked out of the police station, reporters immediately swarmed him. Peter Jasper and I went together to meet him. Seeing my slightly pregnant belly, his eyes were filled with regret. You're already having a child?" I leaned close to his ear and whispered something that crushed him further. "Initially, you were supposed to have one too. You were the one who killed it." He stood frozen, trembling all over, as if struck by lightning. Uncle Galvin then directly kicked Nolan Jasper and his mother out of the villa, officially severing their father-son relationship. All the assets in Nolan Jasper's possession were confiscated and handed over to Peter Jasper. If it weren't for that surgery, when the hospital requested blood tests from both sons, Uncle Galvin might never have discovered that Nolan Jasper wasn't his biological son. Of course, I only learned all of this in this life. Later, I gave birth to a son and a daughter. Our house was filled with laughter. When the two children were fast asleep, Peter Jasper and I leaned against each other on the balcony, watching the sunset. The twilight sun illuminated his face, accentuating his gentleness. He gently stroked my hair, smiling. Wife, I once dreamt of an angel who said I was supposed to die at 25. His eyes were bright, full of love. I quietly closed my eyes and whispered, "What else did the angel say?" His voice was soft like the spring breeze. The angel said that if I ever met a girl named Vera Smith, I must hold on to her tightly, because she would be the salvation of my life. I trembled slightly, unable to contain a soft giggle. It seemed my choice in this life was truly correct. He lifted my chin and held me tightly, right? I think the angel was absolutely right.